As I wait patiently for the release of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I find myself filling that time with yet another viewing of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and by the time this video goes up, it'll already be out. Look, it takes ages putting these videos together on a full-time job. Cut me some slack. Anyway, filmmakers will probably never be able to completely duplicate a comic book into a film, but Into the Spider-Verse gets close. It's so much fun and gives you a different viewpoint on the character while seeming familiar. It does raise the question of when Miles Morales will appear in live action, but I doubt we're far from it. The unexpected release of Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse in 2018 breathed new life into the superhero genre. This is because, in addition to telling the origin story of Miles Morales, the film also acts as a mind-blowing crossover event in which Spidey people from different universes join together to preserve space-time. While things may grow hectic into the Spider-Verse, the film never loses sight of what's important, the character. One of the best superhero films ever made is complemented with groundbreaking animation that turns each frame into a comic book image. Miles' point of view is represented in the film, and because Miles is an artist, the story is told in a unique way. The film is still regarded as a coming-of-age drama, focusing on Miles' feelings, ideas, and actions as he discovers himself and his relationships with his father and Gwen in a new situation. The problem Peter Parker had when he first began his Spider-Man adventures was similar. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, on the other hand, differs from previous Spider-Man films in that it adopts a more artistic approach. Because it was a comic book film, it functions as an example of transitions from academic to superhero narrative. As a result, each scene or story is presented in panels. Miles Morales is an ordinary adolescent attempting to seek out his true purpose while juggling the pressures of school and his personal life. Miles inadvertently comes into contact with Spider-Man and a number of his opponents, involved in a large debate over the development of a portal to a parallel realm, which allows a variety of spider people to enter Miles' universe after being bitten by a radioactive spider. They must work together to prevent the Kingpin from carrying out his plans, or it will be the end of the world for everyone. I truly enjoy this film. Despite the fact that its premise is as comic book as it gets, the characters are all charming, the action is exciting, the humour is hilarious, and the film's visual style and animations are inspiring. In the theatre it was unique and a lot of fun. Because of the artwork that went into crafting this film, I was virtually drooling over each shot. From start to finish, Into the Spider-Verse is a delight, both in terms of narrative and production quality. Action lines are two-dimensional planes that may be used to illustrate motions that are either towards or away from the observer. The movie's visuals were meticulously produced in order to merge numerous artistic media and provide mental imagery. The Collider in the film was portrayed by utilizing urban facilities like as taxis and trains. Lines have been added to the motion to strengthen it and give Miles a motion that improves the movie's plot. This comic book movie could be the most gorgeously crafted one I've ever seen. Every shot of the film was visually appealing, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. It's almost like watching a comic book come to life. The comic book ideas were extensively embraced and ran within Spider-Verse, from subtle line work to a full-on MDMA excursions. Sure, I've seen a lot of beautifully crafted animations in recent years, but this film goes above and beyond, practically transforming every scene into a piece of art. These are some of the most impressive animations I've seen in a long time. Sony Pictures Animations produced this film, and they've had their fair share of success and failures, such as the Smurfs, Hotel Transylvania, the Emoji Movie, and a few others. However, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is by far the best looking of their animated features. When the film begins, it goes rapidly. The action scenes in this picture were on par with the bulk of live action flicks I've seen. I grinned like a kid in a sweet shop at how exciting every action beat was made to be by the combination of colour schemes, animation, visual designs, and camera work. My pulse raced with every fist thrown and the fiery explosions released. The action, on the other hand, is never forced and always feels necessary at the time. When combat breaks out, the writing doesn't feel forced. Instead, it feels natural and keeps the story going ahead. As for our hero, I must admit that I knew very little about Miles Morales. I mean, I've heard of him, I've been told a few details about him, and I've played as him in the PlayStation 4 video games Marvel's Spider-Man. Beyond that, I don't know much about him in the comic books. However, I adored this kid, and before he was bitten by a radioactive super spider, I could empathize with some of his problems. Miles was pleasant and amusing, but he also seemed like a regular adolescent, with difficulties like not quite fitting in and worried about living up to people's expectations. His unique skills, which set him distinct from the other Spider-Men, also piqued my curiosity and resulted in a few fascinating sequences. Miles also has a love relationship with Gwen Stacy in this scenario, which I thought was nice and, shall I say, cutesy. I look forward to seeing him more after seeing what I've seen in this movie and the video game. His character development was superb. Miles' appearance in this comic book film differ from that of Peter Parker in the normal Spider-Man film. Miles, unlike Peter, is of course a black American with wavy black hair. It was also implied by the way he redesigned Spider-Man's costume with his creative powers. As a result, his Spider-Man costume is more vivid than Peter's. Miles wore a red and blue Spider-Man suit, whereas Peter wore a red and black one. The film portrays Spider-Man as a superhero while also incorporating Miles and Peter's qualities. It also investigates how Spider-Man's identity may be influenced by his race in America. Because the film proves that superheroes do not have to be white, depicting race in the context of superheroes in films is less sensitive and polarizing. Miles transformed into a superhero and faced his own problems, just like Peter did as Spider-Man. I grew up with Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker as Spider-Man from the incredible 2002 Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies, and while I've seen many different interpretations of the character, this is one of the most unique ideas I've seen for Peter. A moderately experienced Spider-Man who has suffered a major personal setback that has left him feeling lost. After suffering through a divorce and other major disappointments, he is now ready to let certain things go. He is still a hero at heart and will go to any length to save people, but he has lost the mojo that keeps him going. That's what I appreciate about this character. He's Peter Parker, except older and tired from everything he's gone through. Peter and Miles have a fantastic relationship. They have a great comedy timing and lots of humanizing talks. When he tells a joke, you laugh out loud, and when he has a dramatic moment, you let a tear out or two. The villains all provide some incredible action, and their personalities are all fascinating. Wilson Fisk, known as the Kingpin, is a powerful criminal who would go to any length to see his slain family again. Doc Ock's appearance is a great addition, and their battle sequences were all breathtakingly good. The Prowler, a fearsome foe with a backstory that included a surprise that he is Miles' uncle, was great. I enjoyed as that subplot evolved, and also plays a part. There are a few more that occur from time to time, and they are all helpful for their specific tasks. The Spider-Man film taught how to successfully combine several enemies in a single story. Wilson Fisk might have needed a bit more character development, but I liked what I saw overall. He was a villain with comprehensible reasons, which made him more fascinating than your standard MCU villain of today. Overall, I was never confused or perplexed while watching this movie, and I had no idea what would happen in any given circumstance. I would sometimes glimpse something, but only immediately before it had happened. Other than that, I was unclear of the true path this film was headed. It achieved the optimum balance of exposition, character, and plot by providing us with just enough backstory on each Spider-Man without overburdening the story or making me care less about the characters. A multifaceted concept and a cast line packed to the brim are no easy achievements to achieve. Nothing is left to be a weak link since everything is handled with care and attention, from the characters and narrative to the cinematography and animation. The animation is unique and takes some getting used to, at least for me, because it occasionally has a shaky aspect rather than the smooth movement of the most theatrical animation, and on occasions near the conclusion I was distracted by the sheer breadth and quality of the animation that was moving and changing swiftly in a choppy manner. However, these were minor flaws. Overall, it is gorgeous and thrillingly energetic. It is of course a masterpiece. We were all curious to see what Lord and Miller would do next. Fortunately, Sony understood they were onto a winner and gave the creative team entire creative control over the trilogy. The first chapter of this journey is of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, in which Miles must confront what it means to be a hero and give up all he holds dear. The sequel also introduces the villain The Spot, who would represent the biggest threat to the multiverse in the trilogy. Lord and Miller will build on the multiverse concept in their sequel by introducing a slew of new Spider people, including Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, and Pavitra Pravaka, the Indian Spider-Man. But until then, we can watch in awe the masterpiece that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Well, that's enough rambling for one day.